Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're the director of a massive sprawling Hollywood movie set. The production is your life, and everyone in the tour family, your friends, your co-workers are the actors. Every single day, you show up to the set with a clipboard and a megaphone, convinced it's your job to manage every single detail. You're constantly whispering stage directions. Honey, you should really be more ambitious at work. You're tweaking the lighting for your friends. Guys, are we sure this is the best restaurant for brunch? The place down the street has better reviews. You're even trying to rewrite the script for your parents. Mom, Dad, you can't be worried about that. Just relax. You're so busy directing everyone else, making sure they hit their marks and deliver their lines perfectly, that you completely forget the most important thing. You're supposed to be the star of your own movie. Instead, you're exhausted. You're pouring all your energy into a production where the actors keep going off script. No matter how hard you try, someone is always disappointed. A friend doesn't take your advice. Your partner is in a bad mood you can't fix. Your family keeps making choices you wouldn't make for them, and you're left feeling drained, unappreciated, and wondering why, after all your hard work, your own life feels so empty. If this sounds even remotely familiar, I want you to hear this loud and clear. The problem isn't you. It's not that you're not trying hard enough, or that you're not a good enough friend, partner, or child. The problem is the job you've given yourself. You've become the unpaid, overworked, and perpetually stressed out director of everyone else's life. And you're long overdue to quit. This is where you take your power back. It's where you stop trying to control things you were never meant to control in the first place, like the thoughts, feelings, and choices of other grown adults. And it all starts with two simple life-altering words. Not let them, that's it. That's the secret. It's a permission slip you write for yourself to stop managing the universe. Your roommate leaves a mountain of dishes in the sink again. Instead of letting that familiar wave of resentment wash over you, just whisper to yourself, let them live with their own mess. It's not your job to be their maid or their mother. Your best friend starts dating someone you know is absolutely wrong for them. Instead of launching into a lecture and trying to orchestrate a breakup, take a deep breath. Let them learn their own lessons. Your job is to be a friend, not a casting director for their love life. When you stop pouring your precious, finite energy into trying to control, please, and perfect everyone around you, something miraculous happens. That energy comes flooding back to you. You suddenly have the time, the focus, and the peace of mind to turn the camera back on yourself and ask the most important question. What do I want my story to be about? This isn't about becoming cold or uncaring. It's the exact opposite. It's about learning to love people for who they are, not for who you wish they would be. It's the key to better relationships, a calmer mind, and a life that finally feels like your own. And I stumbled upon this life-changing secret during, of all things, a disastrously planned weekend getaway. The road trip that changed everything a few years ago. I was what you might call a planner, and that's putting it mildly. I was more like a four-star general planning a military invasion when it came to organizing a trip with friends. For our annual fall getaway, I had booked the perfect Airbnb in the mountains, complete with a hot tub and a fire pit. I had a color-coded itinerary that would make a wedding planner weep with joy. Reservations were made, driving routes were optimized, and snack schedules were confirmed. It was going to be the most perfect, relaxing, flawlessly executed weekend in human history, or so I thought. Everything was going according to plan until Saturday afternoon. We were on our way to a scenic hike I'd meticulously researched when we passed a dusty, hand-painted sign on the side of the road that read, "World's biggest ball of twine, next exit." My friend Mark, who has the impulse control of a golden retriever in a squirrel sanctuary, slammed on the brakes. "Guys, we have to see it." His wife Jen was already pulling up pictures on her phone. "Oh my God, it's real. It has its own gazebo." I could feel my perfectly calibrated internal schedule shattering into a million pieces. "Guys, we can't," I said, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. "We have the dinner reservation at 7 o'clock, and the hike is 45 minutes from here. If we stop, we'll be late." I was met with blank stares. I was speaking the language of logic and reason. They were speaking the language of spontaneous twine-based joy. I spent the next 5 minutes desperately trying to direct the scene back to my script. I explained the traffic patterns, the reservation policy, the sunset time for optimal hiking photos. I was managing, pleading, and trying with every fiber of my being to control the situation and keep my perfect weekend on track. That's when my other friend, Chloe, who had been quietly watching the whole exchange from the back seat, leaned forward and put a hand on my shoulder. "Alex," she said gently, "dude, just let them. The words hung in the air. They were so simple, so obvious, yet they hit me like a lightning bolt. What was I doing? I was treating a weekend with my best friends like a high-stakes business merger. I was so obsessed with my idea of a perfect trip that I was strangling the actual fun out of it. If they want to see a giant, pointless ball of twine," Chloe continued with a smile, "just let them. It's their vacation, too. Who cares if we're a little late for dinner? We'll figure it out. Let them." It was like a switch flipped in my brain. The tension in my shoulders disappeared. The frantic calculations in my head went silent. I looked at Mark's goofy, excited face and Jen's delighted smile, and I realized Chloe was right. It wasn't my job to guarantee their happiness by forcing them to stick to my plan. My job was to share in it, so I took a deep breath, turned to Mark and said, "All right, let's go see the twine." The next hour was, objectively, a complete waste of time. The ball of twine was exactly what it sounds like. It was big, it was made of twine, and it smelled faintly of dust and regret. But it was also hilarious. We took ridiculous photos. We laughed until we cried. It was a perfectly imperfect, completely spontaneous detour, and it became the most memorable part of the entire trip. We were late for dinner, and you know what? The restaurant still seated us. The world didn't end. That moment fundamentally changed my approach to everything. I started applying those two magic words to every little friction point in my life. The person taking forever in the self-checkout line, let them my uncle starting a political debate at Thanksgiving dinner. Let him my boss sending a quick question email at 6 p.m. on a Friday. Let her I'll answer it on Monday. The more I used it, the more I realized that most of the stress in my life wasn't coming from other people's actions. It was coming from my reaction to their actions. It was coming from my pointless, exhausting effort to control the uncontrollable. This simple idea felt so powerful that I started talking about it. I mentioned it on a small podcast I was a guest on. The host got an avalanche of emails. I wrote a blog post about the ball of twine theory. It was shared thousands of times. Soon I was getting messages from people all over the country. People who had led them to stop fighting with their teenage kids. People who had used it to finally set boundaries with a toxic coworker. I even got an email with a photo. A woman had gotten the words, "let them," tattooed on her wrist as a permanent reminder to release control. That's when I knew I was onto something bigger than just a fun story about a road trip. I needed to understand why this worked so well. I started diving into the research, talking to psychologists, therapists, and behavioral scientists. What I discovered is that it all comes back to a fundamental law of human nature. We are all wired with a deep primal need for control. It's a survival instinct. Our ancient ancestors needed to control their environment to stay safe from predators and find food. But in our modern world, that instinct gets misdirected. We try to control other people's feelings and opinions, as if they were life or death threats. But here's the catch. You can never, ever control another person. You can't control what they think, what they say, or what they do. The only person on this entire planet you have any real control over is yourself, your thoughts, your actions, your feelings. For too long, you and I have been working against this basic law of nature, and it's been making us miserable. We've been fighting losing battles, trying to change people who don't want to change, and worrying about opinions that we have no power to influence. The let them theory is your way of finally surrendering to that truth. But it's not a surrender of defeat, it's a surrender of liberation. It's about dropping the heavy, useless weapons of control and picking up the powerful tools of acceptance and self-focus. When you stop trying to manage everyone else, you'll be stunned at how much power you truly have. But here's what's really interesting. Saying let them is only the first step. It's the key that opens the door. But what do you do once you step through it? What do you do with all that time and energy you've reclaimed?
Chapter 2, The Lighthouse and the Ship. Last week, I was scrolling through my phone, just killing a few minutes before bed, when I saw it. It was a photo from a local art gallery I absolutely love, a cool, industrial space that showcases all the best local talent. The picture was of their annual Meet the Maker night. The gallery was packed with people laughing, sipping wine, and admiring the art. And right there, front and center, was a small group of local woodworkers I follow online, standing proudly next to their beautiful, handcrafted tables and shelves, and my stomach just dropped. You know that feeling, right? It's that ice-cold punch to the gut when you realize you've been left out. 1 second you're perfectly happy, and the next, your world shrinks down to a single, burning question: why not me? I'm a woodworker, too. It's my passion. For the last 2 years, I've poured every spare hour into my tiny garage workshop, turning rough planks of walnut and oak into things I'm genuinely proud of. I'd been dreaming of getting my work into that very gallery. My thumb started moving on its own. I went from the gallery's page to the profile of each woodworker who was there. I zoomed in on their work, analyzing the joinery, the finish, the design. The joy and pride I usually felt for my craft evaporated, replaced by a bitter cocktail of comparison and insecurity. His work is so much cleaner than mine. She has 10,000 followers. Of course they invited her. My photos are so amateur. Who am I kidding? For a solid 20 minutes, I sat there in the dark, torturing myself, feeling the familiar spiral of rejection take hold. My first instinct was to lash out, at least in my own mind. It's not fair. It's all a popularity contest. I bet their work isn't even that good in person. My next instinct was to give up. Maybe I should just sell my tools. I'm clearly not cut out for this. The old me would have let this ruin my entire week. I would have stewed in that toxic brew of jealousy and self-doubt, and the one place that brought me joy, my workshop, would have felt like a place of failure. But then, I remembered the lesson from the giant ball of twine. I took a deep breath and tried my new mantra, let them. The words felt hollow at first. The hurt was still too sharp. So I said it again, a little quieter this time. Let them have their night. Let the gallery choose who they want. Let them be successful. I must have repeated it a dozen times. And with each repetition, I could feel the emotional storm inside me start to calm. The knot in my chest loosened its grip, just a little that I realized that saying, let them, wasn't about pretending it didn't hurt. It was about choosing not to let the hurt take over the ship. It was about releasing myself from the insane idea that I had any control over who a gallery owner chose to feature. Their event had absolutely nothing to do with me. It wasn't a verdict on my worth or my talent. It was just, their event, and that's when the second, more powerful part of the theory kicked in. The part that turns you from a victim of your circumstances into the master of your own life. After, let them, comes the most important follow-up, let me. This is where everything changes, becoming the lighthouse. I want you to think about your life with a new analogy. The lighthouse and the ship, other people's lives, their choices, their successes, their dramas, they are all ships sailing on a vast ocean. Some are giant cruise liners, some are speedy yachts, and some are rickety fishing boats. They all have their own captains, their own maps, and their own destinations. You are in your own boat. Your first mistake is thinking you can, or should, try to steer their ships. You can't. Trying to will only leave you exhausted and lost at sea. When a ship passes close by, like a friend getting the promotion you wanted, or in my case, the gallery hosting an event without me, its wake will inevitably rock your boat. This is that initial sting of jealousy, comparison, or FOMO. Your immediate, instinctual reaction is to get tossed around in those waves. Let them, is the act of dropping your anchor. Instantly, you stop being thrown about by their wake. You become stable. You let their ship sail on, acknowledging that its course has nothing to do with yours. It's a powerful act of grounding yourself in the present moment, but if you only drop anchor, you're still just a small boat sitting in the water. You're stable, but you're not going anywhere. This is the danger of stopping at, let them. You can become isolated, passively watching all the other ships go by, feeling superior but secretly stagnant. Let me, is the act of becoming the lighthouse. This is the ultimate power move. A lighthouse isn't concerned with the direction of every single ship. It doesn't get pulled into their wake. A lighthouse has its own foundation, its own source of power, and its own singular, vital purpose, to shine its own light. Sitting on my couch, feeling the sting of that Instagram post, I moved from my boat to my lighthouse. Let them have their successful event. Dropping anchor. Now, let me use this as a lesson, not a loss. Let me look at their websites and see what I can learn. Wow, their photography is professional. Let me find a local photographer I can hire. Their artist bios are so compelling. Let me spend an hour this weekend rewriting mine. You know what? Let me stop waiting to be discovered. Let me send a polite, professional email to the gallery owner next week, introducing myself and my work, and ask for a studio visit. Not to complain, but to connect. Do you see the shift? I went from being a passive, wounded observer to an active, empowered creator of my own destiny. The other woodworkers weren't my competition anymore. They were my teachers. Their success wasn't a rejection of my work, it was a roadmap for my own. The cynic's trap and the bridge back. This two-step process, let them, then let me, is the only way the theory works. If you only ever say, let them, you risk falling into what I call the cynic's trap. The cynic's trap is a lonely island of your own making. It's where you stand with your arms crossed, rolling your eyes at the world. Let them have their silly parties. Let her post another vacation photo. I don't care. You feel a temporary jolt of superiority, but underneath it, you're just disconnecting. You're using the theory as an excuse to withdraw, to ghost people, to avoid hard conversations, and to build walls around your heart. Let me is the bridge back to the mainland. It's the part that says, I am still an active participant in my own life and relationships. I am responsible for my own happiness, my own connections, and my own success. It's what makes you pick up the phone after you say, let them not invite me, and follow it up with, let me call Sarah and see if she wants to get coffee, because I'm responsible for my own social life. It's what makes you open your laptop after you say, let him get the promotion, and follow it up with, let me update my resume and start looking for a company that will value my contributions. This isn't some new age fad. This is ancient wisdom repackaged for a world of digital comparison and constant notifications. Philosophers and Zen masters have taught for centuries that suffering comes not from what happens, but from our attachment to how we think things should happen. Let them is the ultimate tool for detachment. But let me is the tool for engagement. It's how you re-engage with your own life on your own terms. Your power is never in managing other people, it's always in managing your response. When you combine these two simple phrases, you create a rhythm for a more peaceful and powerful life. Release, then refocus. Let go, then take action. Let them. Then, let me, your first action step, the two-step practice for the next week. I want you to practice this consciously. The release, let them the very next time you feel that sting, of annoyance, jealousy, exclusion, or frustration, caused by someone else's actions. Pause. Take a breath. Silently say to yourself, let them, do/be/have that. Acknowledge it's their ship, not yours to steer. Feel the anchor drop, the refocus, let me immediately, and this is the most important part, follow it up with, now, let me, and identify one small, constructive action you can take. Let them ignore my text. Now, let me put my phone down and focus on this project in front of me. Let them post their perfect family vacation photos. Now, let me start a savings jar for a weekend trip I've been wanting to take. Let them get praised for an idea I had first. Now, let me make sure my contributions in the next meeting are clearly and confidently stated. This isn't just a mindset, it's a muscle. The more you practice this two-step, the stronger you'll get at turning moments of frustration into fuel for your own life. Your let me era is here. Chapter 3, Shocker, Life is Stressful, and How to Stop Living in the Red Zone. Let's talk about your morning. You woke up 7 minutes late because you swatted the snooze button one too many times. You stubbed your toe on the dresser, discovered you were out of your favorite coffee, and then spent 4 minutes searching for your keys, which were, of course, in yesterday's jacket pocket. Now you're in line at a coffee shop, and the person in front of you is staring at the menu as if it's written in ancient hieroglyphics. Your phone is buzzing in your pocket with a dozen notifications, a work email marked urgent, a group chat blowing up, a news alert about something awful happening halfway across the world. Each one of these is a tiny papercut on your soul. Individually, they're nothing. But by 8:30 a.m., you're bleeding out. You feel agitated, your shoulders are tight, and you have this low-grade hum of anxiety thrumming just beneath your skin. Welcome to modern life. For most of us, it's death by 1,000 cuts. That it's not the one big, catastrophic event that wears us down. It's the endless onslaught of tiny, seemingly insignificant stressors. The slow driver in the fast lane. The Wi-Fi that cuts out during an important call. The passive-aggressive comment from a coworker. The constant, nagging feeling that you're behind on everything. That we tell ourselves we should be able to handle it, that these little things shouldn't bother us. But they do. And they're quietly wrecking our lives. Think of your energy and focus like the RPM gauge on a car. A healthy, sustainable pace is in the green zone. But most of us are spending our entire day with the needle screaming in the red. We're flooring the engine over a sold-out bagel. We're burning a gallon of fuel because someone is walking too slowly in front of us. We are living our lives in the red zone, and we're wondering why we're always running on empty. You will never reach your potential, not in your career, your relationships, or your personal goals, if you continue to let rude strangers and trivial nonsense drain your life force. Your time and your energy are the most valuable currencies you have. It's time you stopped letting other people spend them for you. The hijacked brain. When I started researching why these tiny stressors had such a huge impact, I spoke to Dr. Aditi Narurkar, a physician at Harvard Medical School. She explained that this isn't just a matter of being easily annoyed. It's a matter of brain chemistry. Inside your brain, you have a calm, rational CEO, your prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain that helps you plan, make logical decisions, and think long-term. But you also have an overzealous, almond-shaped security guard called the amygdala. Its job is to scan for threats and, when it spots one, to hit the big red panic button that triggers your fight, flight, or freeze response. This was a fantastic system when the biggest threats we faced were saber-toothed tigers. The problem is, your amygdala's software has never been updated. It thinks a passive-aggressive email from your boss is the same as a tiger hiding in the bushes. So when that slow barista finally calls your name, but gets your order wrong, your amygdala doesn't just see a lukewarm latte. It sees a threat. It hijacks the whole system, shoves your rational CEO into a supply closet, and floods your body with stress hormones. Your heart rate quickens, your muscles tense, and your mind starts racing. You have officially been hijacked. Living in the red zone means your brain's security guard never goes off duty. It's always on high alert, which is why you feel perpetually exhausted, why you procrastinate on important tasks, your brain is too busy fighting imaginary tigers, and why your inner critic sounds like it has a megaphone. The pattern interrupt. So how do you get your CEO back in the corner office? You need a pattern interrupt. You need a way to manually override the hijack and reset your system. This is where our theory comes in. It's a simple, two-step process. Step 1, the interrupt. Let them. The moment you feel that familiar surge of irritation, the tightened chest, the clenched jaw, I want you to say 2 words to yourself. Let them take forever to order. Let them drive 10 miles under the speed limit. Let them misunderstand your email. This phrase is a circuit breaker. It's a verbal command that interrupts the automatic stress cycle. You are consciously signaling to your overzealous security guard that this is a false alarm. There is no tiger. It's just a latte. This simple act of acceptance stops the emotional spiral in its tracks. Step 2, the reset. After you've hit the interrupt, you need to reset the system. Follow up immediately with, let me take a breath. Breathe in deeply through your nose for a count of 4, hold it for a moment, and then exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 6. This isn't some new age fluff, it's a physiological reset button. That deep, controlled exhale stimulates something called the vagus nerve, which runs from your brain all the way down to your gut. It's the main highway of your body's relaxation response. When you activate it, it sends a message straight back to your amygdala that says, all clear. You can stand down. The CEO comes out of the supply closet, the stress hormones recede, and you are back in control. Let's go back to that man I once sat behind on a plane who was coughing like he was trying to summon a demon, without ever covering his mouth. My initial red zone reaction was pure panic. He's going to get me sick. This is so rude. I have a huge presentation tomorrow. I tried to control him, I glared, I passive-aggressively cleared my own throat, I even asked him politely to cover his mouth. Nothing worked. My stress levels were through the roof. Then, I deployed the pattern interrupt. Let him cough. The interrupt. I accepted that I could not control the actions of this stranger. My agitation was doing nothing but ruining my own flight. Let me see what I can control. The reset. I took a deep breath. Let me pull my scarf up over my nose and mouth. Let me put in my noise-canceling headphones and listen to a podcast that in less than a minute. I went from being a stressed-out, hijacked victim of circumstance to a calm, empowered person in control of my own environment. I couldn't stop his coughing, but I could stop it from ruining my day. That is the power you have in every single moment. You just have to remember to use it. Chapter 4, The Olive Oil and Other Wars Not Worth Fighting. The coughing man on the plane is a simple, contained problem. You get off the flight, and he disappears from your life forever. But what about the stressors that don't go away? The ones that are waiting for you every morning when you wake up, I'm talking about the chronic, low-grade frustrations that can slowly poison your relationships and your peace of mind. According to the research, for most people, the number one source of this kind of stress isn't work or money. It's the people they live with. Let me tell you about my friend Liam. Liam lives with two roommates, and for months, he was being driven slowly insane by one of them, Chloe. Chloe is a perfectly nice person, except for one thing: she operates under the belief that the kitchen is a magical, all-inclusive resort. Specifically, Liam's shelf in the pantry. His expensive olive oil, his gourmet coffee beans, his sea salt, they were all part of the Chloe community pantry, used freely and never replaced. Every time Liam went to make his morning coffee and found the bag nearly empty, he'd feel that familiar jolt of red zone anger. He started a campaign of passive aggression. He'd leave the empty olive oil bottle on the counter as a hint. He'd complain about it constantly to his other roommate. The kitchen, once a neutral space, became a battleground. The stress was constant, and it was making him miserable in his own home. Liam was making the classic mistake: he was trying to control Chloe. He was trying to will her into being a more considerate person. And it was never going to work. That he finally called me, completely fed up. "What do I do?" he asked. "I can't live like this, but I don't want to have a huge, dramatic fight over a bottle of olive oil." This is where you have to move beyond the simple pattern interrupt and start thinking like a strategist. Your "let me" response isn't always about taking a breath. Sometimes it's about making a choice. First, the interrupt: let her be a little clueless. Let her be forgetful. This isn't about condoning her behavior, it's about accepting that you cannot change her core personality with sarcastic notes. Next, the strategic reset. "Let me" becomes a decision-making tool. Liam had to ask himself a simple question: what is the path to my own peace? And in a situation like this, there are a few different paths you can take. Path number 1, the path of economic surrender. Liam could ask himself, honestly, how much is this costing me per month? $20. Is my daily peace and a friendly home environment worth $20 a month? If the answer is yes, then the solution is simple. Let me buy a cheap, generic bottle of olive oil for the communal shelf and keep my fancy stuff in my room. Problem solved. No drama, no confrontation. He buys his peace for the price of a bottle of Wesson. Path number 2, the path of clear boundaries. Maybe for Liam, it wasn't about the money. Maybe it was about the principle of respect. The daily annoyance was a symptom of a larger problem that would keep bothering him. In that case, the path to peace is a calm, direct conversation. Let me talk to her, not with anger, but with a simple, non-accusatory boundary. He could say, "Hey Chloe, quick logistical thing. To make things easier, I'm going to start keeping my groceries on the top shelf, so feel free to use anything on the lower shelves." He's not attacking her character, he's simply stating a change in how he's organizing the kitchen. Path number 3, the path of the long game. What if the olive oil is just the tip of the iceberg? What if it's one of a dozen things that prove he and Chloe are fundamentally incompatible as roommates? If that's the case, no amount of conversation will fix it. The only path to peace is to change the situation entirely. Let me accept that this living arrangement isn't a long-term fit. Let me start looking for a new apartment when our lease is up in 6 months. Do you see what happened? In all 3 scenarios, Liam stopped trying to change Chloe and instead focused 100% on what he could do to solve his problem. He took back control. This is the formula for any chronic stressor in your life, from the roommate who drives you crazy to the job that's draining your soul. You have to ask yourself, what is within my control? What is the most effective path to my own peace? Sometimes it's a small, practical adjustment. Sometimes it's a difficult conversation. And sometimes, it's recognizing that you need to walk away entirely. Your life is too short and your energy too precious to wage wars that are not worth fighting. Let them be who they are. And then, let you be the smart, strategic architect of your own peace. Managing stress. The summary: the problem: you're living in the red zone, allowing your brain's ancient, overzealous security guard, the amygdala, to get hijacked by tiny, everyday stressors. This drains your energy, kills your focus, and leaves you feeling perpetually overwhelmed. The truth, your initial stress response is automatic and physiological. You can't stop it from happening, but you can stop it from taking over. It's not what happens to you that matters, it's what you do next. The solution: use the pattern interrupt. First, say, let them, to break the automatic stress cycle and accept the situation you can't control. Then, say, let me, to reset your system, either by taking a deep, calming breath or by strategically choosing a response that leads you to peace. This is how you take back control from the chaos and protect your most valuable resources, your time and your energy. Chapter 5, You Are Fired, a guide to dismissing your invisible jury. Imagine for a moment that your life is a book. Every day, you add a new page. The story is yours to write, full of twists, turns, triumphs, and failures. Now, let me ask you a question, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself, right now. Who is holding the pen? Is it you? Or have you handed it over to the committee of critics that lives in your head? For most of us, if we're being honest, we're not the sole authors of our own stories. We live our lives as if we're on trial, constantly being watched by an invisible jury. This jury is made up of our parents, our partners, our friends, that one critical boss from 5 years ago, and a rotating cast of strangers on the internet. And every choice we make, from the clothes we wear to the career path we choose, is submitted as evidence that we play it safe. We self-censor. We shrink ourselves down, hoping to get a unanimous verdict of not guilty on the charges of being too loud, too different, too ambitious, or a failure. We are so terrified of their judgment that we put ourselves in a prison of our own making. This fear is the single most destructive roadblock in your life. It's the quiet voice that whispers, "What will they think?" right before you're about to do something brave. It's the reason you procrastinate on your dreams, the reason you overthink every text message, and the reason you feel paralyzed by the need to be perfect. This is where that stops. This is where you walk into the courtroom of your mind, look that invisible jury in the eye, and say, "You're all fired." It's time to give people the absolute freedom to think whatever they want about you. Let them. Let them judge. Let them misunderstand. Let them talk. That it's the most terrifying and liberating decision you will ever make. The flower shop and the golden handcuffs. Let me tell you about a woman named Maria. On paper, Maria was a success. She was a senior analyst at a big financial firm, with a great salary, a corner office, with a view of another office building, and a 401k that was steadily growing. Her parents were incredibly proud. Her friends were a little envious. She was securely fastened into a pair of golden handcuffs, and by all external measures, she had made it. But Maria had a secret. Every Saturday morning, she would wake up at 5 a.m., drive to the wholesale flower market, and fill her apartment with buckets of ranunculus, peonies, and eucalyptus. She had a passion for floral design. She dreamed of opening a tiny, beautiful flower shop, a place that smelled of damp earth and fresh blossoms, where she could spend her days creating things of beauty. She took online courses in secret. She filled a dozen notebooks with business plans and shop names. She had a vision so clear she could almost taste it. But for 3 solid years, that's all it was, a secret vision. Why? The invisible jury did in her mind. The verdict was already in. She could hear her father, a man who valued security above all else, saying, "You're throwing away a 6-figure salary to play with flowers. Is that even a real job?" She could hear her corporate friends whispering at brunch, "It's a cute little hobby, but she's not serious, right?" She could feel her partner's anxiety about the mortgage, the risk, the instability. The fear of their judgment was so powerful, it kept her completely paralyzed. She was more committed to avoiding their potential disapproval than she was to building her own happiness. She was letting their imaginary opinions hold the pen, and they were writing a very safe, very beige, and very miserable story for her. This is the stupid, tragic trick we play on ourselves. We give the imaginary thoughts of other people more power than our own, real-life dreams. The truth about your fan club. Most of the advice you'll hear on this topic is useless. Just stop caring what other people think, they say. Oh, thanks. Why didn't I think of that? It's like telling someone in the middle of a panic attack to just calm down. It doesn't work because it ignores a fundamental truth. The revolutionary approach is not to stop caring. It's to give people permission. Let them think what they want. In fact, expect them to have negative thoughts about you. Because they will. Here's a secret that will set you free: even the people who adore you, the ones who are the presidents of your fan club, think bad thoughts about you all the time. And it's completely normal that I love my best friend more than words can say, but every time she's 30 minutes late to meet me, the first thought in my head is, she is the most inconsiderate human on the planet. Does that mean I don't love her? Of course not. It's a fleeting, frustrated thought. 5 minutes after she arrives and makes me laugh, it's completely gone. Your parents, who would walk through fire for you, have absolutely questioned your fashion choices. Your partner, who thinks you're the greatest person on earth, has 100% been annoyed by the way you chew your food. A negative thought does not equal a negative verdict on your entire character. Human beings have, on average, over 60,000 thoughts a day. Most of them are random, unfiltered garbage. It is neurologically and physically impossible for you to control what pops into someone else's head, so why are you wasting your precious energy trying? You can't even control all the thoughts that pop into your own head. Why do you think you can control anyone else's? You can't. That's why you just have to let them be wrong about you. Let them roll their eyes when you tell them your new business idea. Let them question your decisions. Instead of wasting your time auditioning for their approval, start living a life that makes you proud. When you are the one signing your own permission slip, their signature becomes irrelevant. This is how Maria finally opened her flower shop. She spent 1 more year saving aggressively, and then she walked into her boss's office and quit. Was her jury happy? Nope. Her dad was terrified. Her friends were confused. But Maria had decided that her own pride and her bravery was more important than their opinions. She chose to be proud of herself for taking the risk, no matter the outcome. And that made all the difference. Chapter 6, The View from Their Shoes, How to Love Difficult People. Dismissing the invisible jury of casual observers is one thing. But what about when the chief justice of that jury is your mom, your dad, or someone you love and respect deeply? What happens when their opinion isn't just a fleeting thought, but a deeply held conviction that clashes with your own? This is where the theory gets tested by fire, because with family, the stakes are higher. The history is longer. The emotional ties are a tangled, beautiful, complicated mess. Your family has had opinions about you since you were in diapers. They feel entitled to them because, in their hearts, they believe they know what's best for you, and here's the key: any change you make doesn't just affect you. It sends a ripple, or sometimes a tidal wave, through the entire family system. When you decide to change careers, move across the country, or marry someone they didn't expect, you are disrupting a system that has been in place for decades. Their reaction isn't just about you, it's about the entire web of relationships being shaken up. To navigate this, you need a more advanced tool. It's a concept that has been a game changer in my own life, and it's called understanding someone's frame of reference. It's a fancy way of saying you need to try to see the world from inside their shoes, based on the path they've walked. The lawyer and the teacher. Let me tell you about a man named Ben. Ben was a successful lawyer. He made his father, a self-made businessman, incredibly proud. His dad had grown up with nothing, working 2 jobs to put himself through school, and built a successful company from scratch. All he wanted was for his son to have the security and prestige he never had. Ben's law degree was, for his father, the ultimate symbol of that success, but Ben was miserable. He hated the adversarial nature of law. His passion was history. And after years of agonizing, he decided to leave his high-paying law career to become a high school history teacher. When he told his father, the reaction was crushing. "A teacher?" his dad said, the disappointment thick in his voice. "I didn't bust my ass for 40 years so you could throw it all away and make 50 grand a year." Ben was devastated. He felt his father's words as a deep and personal rejection. He saw his father as judgmental and unsupportive, unable to see the value in a life dedicated to passion instead of profit. Their relationship became strained and painful, full of unspoken resentment. For months, Ben just felt angry. Let him be disappointed, he thought. But it was the hollow, lonely version of let them. It was the cynic's trap. Then, he tried to understand his dad's frame of reference. He tried to imagine what it was like to grow up with the constant, gnawing fear of financial insecurity. He thought about his dad's stories of patching his shoes with cardboard and eating potatoes for a week. From inside his dad's shoes, the world looked different. A high-paying, prestigious job wasn't just a status symbol, it was a fortress. It was safety. It was the finish line of a lifetime of struggle. From his father's frame of reference, Ben's choice to become a teacher wasn't a brave pursuit of passion, it was a reckless abandonment of the very fortress his father had spent his life building for him. It looked like a willful rejection of his father's life's work. Understanding this didn't magically make his dad approve of his choice. But it changed everything for Ben. He was able to see his father's reaction not as judgment, but as fear. Fear born from a lifetime of experience. Fear born from love that it allowed Ben to have a completely different conversation. He went to his dad and said, "Dad, I know it seems like I'm throwing away the security you worked so hard to give me. And I want you to know, I am so grateful for that security. In fact, it's the very thing that's giving me the courage to do this. You taught me to work hard for something that matters. For you, it was building a business to keep us safe. For me, it's this. I'm just using the lessons you taught me in a different way." It was the first time his father went quiet and just listened. Their relationship didn't heal overnight, but the foundation was repaired. Ben realized you can give someone the space to have their own feelings and their own perspective, even if it's painful, without letting it invalidate your own choices. You can let two different truths exist at the same time. His dad's truth, born from his life, and Ben's truth, born from his. This is the deepest level of the let them theory. It's when you realize that most of the time, people's difficult opinions aren't about you at all. They are a reflection of their own stories, their own fears, and their own unmet dreams. As the saying goes, people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. Your job is not to change their mind. Your job is to understand their frame of reference, and then, with compassion and clarity, take back the pen and continue writing your own story. Fearing opinions, the summary, the problem. You're living your life to please an invisible jury in your head. This fear of judgment keeps you paralyzed, fuels self-doubt, and prevents you from writing your own life story. The truth, you cannot control what other people think. It's neurologically impossible. Even the people who love you most will have fleeting negative thoughts about you. It's a normal part of being human and does not cancel out their love. The solution: fire the jury. Give people the absolute freedom to think what they want by saying, let them. Shift your focus from seeking their approval to building your own self-respect. For difficult loved ones, try to understand their frame of reference, see the world from their shoes to transform judgment into compassion. Finally, use "let me" to take back the pen and make choices that make you proud, because that is the only verdict that truly matters. Chapter 7, When Grown-Ups Throw Tantrums, and Why You're Not the Fire Department. Have you ever felt like you're the designated emotional firefighter for everyone in your life? The moment an alarm goes off, your partner's in a foul mood, your friend is spiraling into drama, your parent lays a guilt trip on you, you feel this compulsive need to rush in. You grab your emotional fire hose, ready to douse their anger, smother their sadness, and put out the flames of their anxiety. You spend your days running from one emotional blaze to another, and at the end of it all, you're the one who's covered in soot, exhausted, and smelling faintly of smoke. You do this because you're a good person. You want to help. But in your rush to put out everyone else's fires, you've forgotten a critical truth. It is not your job to manage the emotional reactions of other adults. In fact, your constant firefighting is likely making things worse. You're the reason you say yes when your gut is screaming no. You're the reason you walk on eggshells, tiptoeing around someone's mood. You are allowing their emotional state to become your responsibility, and it's costing you your own peace. You will always come last in your own life if you continue to let other people's emotional immaturity have power over you. The key to reclaiming your life is to understand what's really happening in those moments. And for that, we need to talk about the emotional time machine. The emotional time machine. A brilliant therapist once told me something that completely changed how I see the world. Most adults are just children in big bodies. When confronted with feelings they can't handle, disappointment, jealousy, fear, rejection, they don't just act like kids. They emotionally time travel back to the age where they got stuck. The 45-year-old man giving you the silent treatment isn't a man at all in that moment. He's the 7-year-old boy who learned that withdrawing was the only way to feel safe. The friend who explodes in anger over a minor inconvenience is the 9-year-old who never learned how to handle frustration. They are reacting to the present with the emotional tools of their past. And you, trying to reason with them as a fellow adult, are having a conversation with a ghost. This isn't an excuse for their behavior, but it is an explanation. It helps you depersonalize it. Their tantrum isn't really about you. It's a rerun of a show that's been playing inside them for decades. Think about it. The patterns are undeniable. The reason for this is simple: emotional regulation is a learned skill. A child who isn't taught how to process disappointment in a healthy way becomes an adult who can't. And it is absolutely not your responsibility to go back in time and reparent another grown-up, but let me be crystal clear: while you are not responsible for another adult's emotions, you are 100% responsible for the emotional and physical needs of a child in your care. Your job is to be the firefighter for a child. You are their guide, their safe harbor, the one who teaches them that big feelings are normal and survivable. For an adult, your job is to let them learn to survive on their own. How to respond to an 8-year-old and a 40-year-old's body. So, what do you do the next time your partner gives you the silent treatment because you made plans with your friends? First, you say, let them. And as you say it, picture the hurt little kid inside of them. Don't engage with the 40-year-old's silent, intimidating posture. Instead, look past it and see the 8-year-old who is pouting because they feel left out. Suddenly, their behavior isn't scary or infuriating anymore. It's almost sad. It's not your fault, and it's not your problem to solve. Then, you follow up with, let me. Let me be the calm, mature adult in this situation. Let me go enjoy my night out with my friends. Let me not play the guessing game of, what's wrong, when I get home. Let me hold myself to a higher standard. I used to be the queen of the silent treatment. When my husband, Chris, would unknowingly hurt my feelings, would retreat into a fortress of silence. I wanted him to see my pain and come rescue me from it. I was handing him the responsibility for my feelings. It wasn't until I realized how childish it was that I started to change. Now, I use the let me part on myself. Let me feel my hurt. Now, let me use my words and tell him what's wrong, even though it feels vulnerable and scary. Using this theory on yourself and others is the definition of emotional maturity. It's recognizing that you are only in charge of one person's feelings, your own. So, the next time an emotional fire breaks out, I want you to put down the hose, hang up your firefighter's helmet, and let them feel the heat. It might be the only way they finally learn how to put out their own fires. Chapter 8, The Right Decision Often Feels Wrong, A Guide to Emotional Surgery. There will be moments in your life when you are faced with a decision that is so difficult, so emotionally charged, that every fiber of your being will scream at you to run in the other direction. These are the moments when the logically right choice feels emotionally catastrophic. It's breaking up with someone you still love but know is wrong for you. It's setting a hard boundary with a family member. It's quitting the safe job to pursue a dream. The decision is clear on paper, but it feels impossible in your heart because you know it will cause pain, both to yourself and to people you care about. Our natural instinct in these moments is to avoid that pain at all costs. We choose to inflict a slow, chronic ache upon ourselves to avoid the acute, immediate pain of a hard decision. This is why people stay in loveless marriages for years. It's why we enable struggling loved ones. It's why we let resentment build until it corrodes our most important relationships. Because the right thing often feels like the wrongest thing in the world. To navigate these moments, you need to stop thinking like a firefighter trying to avoid pain, and start thinking like a surgeon. The courage to make the cut. Imagine your sister, Chloe, is in trouble. She's a free spirit with a heart of gold and a wallet full of maxed out credit cards. She calls you one night, crying. She's about to be evicted and needs $2,000 by morning. I swear, this is the last time, she sobs. I'll pay you back. Your heart aches for her. You hate seeing her suffer. Your emotional firefighter instinct screams at you to grab the hose, in this case, your checkbook, and put out the immediate fire. It would be so easy. The crying would stop. The immediate crisis would be averted. Everyone could go back to pretending everything is fine, but you've done this 5 times before. You know that giving her the money is not a solution. It's just a painkiller. It numbs the symptom for a little while, but the underlying disease, her inability to manage her finances, only gets worse. The truly loving, though excruciatingly difficult, thing to do is to perform emotional surgery. Surgery is messy. It's painful. It involves making a cut. To an outside observer, it looks violent. It feels wrong. But the surgeon knows that this intentional, controlled act of causing pain is the only path to real, long-term healing. Giving Chloe the money is the painkiller. Saying no is the surgery that it will hurt. She will be scared. She will be furious with you. She might say terrible things. You will feel like the cruelest, most heartless person on the planet. And in that moment, you will need the let them theory more than ever. Let her be scared. Let her be angry. Let her feel the full weight of the consequences of her choices. This is the part of the surgery where you have to hold steady, even when the patient is screaming. Then comes the most important part of the operation. This is where you show that surgery is not abandonment. It is a different, deeper kind of care. Let me say no to the money, but yes to real help. Let me drive to your apartment right now. Let me help you pack your things. Let me set you up in my spare bedroom for 1 month. And let me be clear about the conditions. While you are here, we will spend every Sunday afternoon creating a budget, cutting up your credit cards, and applying for a second job. I will not fund your problem anymore, Chloe. But I will, with every ounce of my being, help you heal. Do you feel the power in that? It is the hardest and most loving thing you could possibly do. You are refusing to enable her, but you are not refusing to help her. You are letting her face the music, but you're offering to sit beside her while she does. The right decision often feels wrong because your empathy makes you feel the other person's pain as if it's your own. You feel their fear of the surgery. But you must be the one who is brave enough to know that true healing lies on the other side of that cut. Let them have their emotional reaction. And let you be the one with the steady hand, the clear eyes, and the courageous heart to do what's truly best, not just what's easy. Managing reactions. The summary: the problem: you've appointed yourself the emotional firefighter for the adults in your life, rushing in to put out their emotional fires. This leaves you exhausted and allows their emotional immaturity to control your life. The truth: most adults are emotionally time-traveling, reacting to the present with the underdeveloped tools of their past. Their tantrums, guilt trips, and silent treatments are not your fault or your responsibility. The right decision often requires emotional surgery, an action that feels painful in the short term but is necessary for long-term health and healing. The solution: stop being a firefighter. When an adult has a tantrum, say, let them, and see the child within them to depersonalize their reaction. Then, use, let me, to be the calm, mature adult and protect your peace. When facing a hard decision, have the courage to perform emotional surgery, saying no to enabling but yes to offering real, constructive support. This is how you stop managing their emotions and start leading with loving, courageous action. Chapter 9: Yes, Life Isn't Fair, and Why You're Running the Wrong Race. Picture this. Your life is a marathon. The moment you were born, you were placed at a starting line. But here's the thing: it's a very strange marathon. Everyone starts at a different place. Some people start a mile from the finish line, born into wealth and opportunity. Some start with a 100-pound weight strapped to their back, burdened by trauma or hardship. Some people get to drive a sports car, while you're running barefoot on gravel. And to make it even crazier, everyone's finish line is in a different location. So you start running. But instead of looking ahead at your own path, you spend all your time and energy looking at the runner in the lane next to you. Look how fast she's going. Her running shoes are so much better than mine. How did he get a car? That's not fair. You're so busy watching their race that you keep tripping over your own feet. You become your own biggest obstacle. This is the trap of comparison, and every single one of us falls into it. We allow other people's progress to paralyze us. We see their success as evidence of our failure. And we're torturing ourselves for no reason. So let's just get this out of the way. Say it with me, life isn't fair. That it's not fair that you're buried in student loans while your friends' parents paid for their college. It's not fair that your metabolism decided to go on a permanent vacation at age 25. It's not fair that someone you know got a lucky break, a lucky connection, or was just born with a lucky face. That you're right. It's not fair. Now, what are you going to do about it? Because obsessing over the unfairness of the race is a losing strategy. The more time you spend staring at someone else's highlight reel, the more you miss the entire point. In the marathon of life, you're not playing against anyone. The only person you're truly competing with is the person you were yesterday. The good news is, you can change how you run. You can learn to use other runners not as a measure of your inadequacy, but as inspiration for your own journey. But first, you have to learn to distinguish between the two very different kinds of comparison. One will destroy you, and the other will set you free. I call them mirrors and windows. The danger of distorted mirrors. Some forms of comparison are like standing in front of a distorted funhouse mirror. All it does is reflect your own insecurities back at you, magnified and twisted into monstrous shapes. This is mirror comparison. Mirror comparison happens when you obsess over someone else's fixed attributes, the things you can do absolutely nothing to change. That I want you to ask yourself a simple question: can I change this about myself in the next 30 seconds? Can you make yourself 6 inches taller? Can you give yourself a different bone structure? Can you change the family you were born into or erase a past trauma? Can you magically acquire a God-given talent for singing? If the answer is no, then comparing yourself on that front is an act of self-torture. It's a closed loop of judgment that will only ever make you feel worse. You're staring into a mirror that only highlights what you lack, and there is absolutely no productive action you can take. Let me tell you about two friends, Liam and Ethan, who started a podcast together. Ethan was a natural. He was effortlessly funny, a brilliant storyteller, and could riff on any topic. Liam was the thoughtful, well-researched one, but he was quieter, more introverted. As the podcast grew, the fan mail poured in, almost all of it praising Ethan's charisma. Liam started to spiral. He'd listen back to their episodes, cringing at his own deliberate pace compared to Ethan's quick wit. He was staring into a mirror. He was comparing his own nature to Ethan's innate, unteachable gift for performance. The joy he once felt for their project was being suffocated by the feeling that he was just the boring sidekick, that he was running himself into the ground trying to be as funny and spontaneous as Ethan, and it was making him sound stilted and insecure. The only way forward was to stop looking in that mirror. He had to use the let them theory. Let Ethan be the charismatic star. That's his superpower. Then, he had to follow it up with the power move. Let me focus on my own superpower. Let me be the most insightful, deeply researched, thought-provoking host on the air. My value isn't in trying to be him, it's in being the absolute best version of me. The moment he did that, the podcast got better. He stopped trying to compete and started to complement. He leaned into his strengths, and their dynamic became electric. He shattered the distorted mirror and got back to running his own race. Any time you spend looking in a mirror is time you're not spending moving forward. It's a useless, painful distraction. Let them have their fixed gifts. You have your own path to run. Chapter 10: How to Make Comparison Your Teacher. Looking through windows. Now let's talk about the second kind of comparison. This one isn't a mirror, it's a window. A window shows you something different. It's not a reflection of your flaws, it's a glimpse into a possible future. Window comparison happens when you look at something someone else has achieved through effort, discipline, and consistency, things you could do for yourself. A better job. A healthier body. A thriving side hustle. A beautifully organized home. A strong circle of friends. Financial freedom. These aren't fixed attributes. They are the result of choices and actions. And when you look at them, you're not torturing yourself, your soul is trying to teach you something. Jealousy is your compass. For most of my life, when I looked through these windows, all I felt was a bitter pang of jealousy. I saw someone else's win as my loss. If they launched the business I was still dreaming about, it felt like they had stolen my idea and there was no room left for me. This is a scarcity mindset, and it will keep you stuck forever. There is enough success, happiness, and money in the world for everyone, including you. Someone else's win doesn't shrink the pie, it just shows you that the pie is bigger and more delicious than you imagined. You have to learn to reframe that painful feeling. Jealousy is not a character flaw. Jealousy is your compass. A compass doesn't judge you. It doesn't tell you you're a bad person. It just points. When you feel that strong, undeniable pull of jealousy, your inner compass is pointing directly at something your soul deeply desires. The mistake we make is getting angry at the compass needle, the other person. The smart move is to thank the needle for showing you the direction, and then start walking. Let me tell you about Clara. Clara had been trying to get in shape for years. She'd join a gym in January, go 3 times, and then her membership card would become a permanent resident of her junk drawer. Then, a woman from her office, Brenda, started a fitness journey. Clara found Brenda a little annoying, always so peppy and extra. Brenda started posting her journey on Instagram. No glamorous, filtered shots. She posted sweaty, red-faced selfies from her clunky treadmill. She posted photos of her boring, repetitive meal prep containers. She posted screenshots of her 5:30 a.m. alarm clock with the caption, "Don't want to. Doing it anyway." Clara watched with a mix of scorn and fascination. It wasn't inspiring, it was irritating. But 6 months later, Brenda posted a photo of herself holding a medal, beaming, at the finish line of a half marathon. She looked strong, happy, and vibrantly alive, and Clara felt a wave of jealousy so intense it almost knocked her over. She was looking through a window. Brenda's success wasn't a mirror showing Clara her own failure. It was a window showing her the path. And the path wasn't a secret. It wasn't magic. It wasn't a fancy trainer or a lucky metabolism. The path was just doing the boring, hard work. Day after day. The reason Brenda's journey was so irritating to Clara was that it stripped away all her excuses. Brenda wasn't a super athlete. She wasn't rich. She wasn't special. She was just consistent. Brenda's success was shouting one simple, infuriating fact in Clara's face: if I can do this, so can you. That jealousy was the compass pointing north. It was the fire that finally burned through years of Clara's own excuses. Her anger wasn't really at Brenda. It was at herself, for not starting sooner. That anger was the fuel she had been missing. The next day, for the first time in months, Clara put on her running shoes, went outside, and ran for 10 minutes without stopping. She had finally started her own race. The people who trigger your jealousy the most are often your greatest teachers. They are the ones who hold up a window and force you to see the gap between the life you're living and the life you could be living if you were willing to put in the reps. So let them. Let them make you jealous. Let them make you angry. Let them show you exactly what's possible. Thank them for the roadmap. And then, for the love of your own one wild and precious life, start running. Comparison. The summary: the problem. You're running a marathon but you're obsessed with the other runners, comparing your starting line, your shoes, and your speed to theirs. This chronic comparison is making you trip over your own feet and lose the race against your own potential. The truth: you must learn to distinguish between 2 types of comparison. Mirrors are fixed attributes in others, talent, height, family, that only reflect your insecurities back at you. Looking at them is an act of self-torture. Windows are achievements others have earned through effort, fitness, a business, a skill. Looking at them shows you what is possible. The solution: shatter the mirrors and look through the windows. When you see a fixed trait in someone you can't change, say, "Let them," and refuse to engage in self-torture. When you feel the sting of jealousy over something someone has achieved, recognize that your jealousy is a compass. It's not a flaw, it's a powerful signal pointing toward your own desires. Say, let them, to honor their success, then use, let me, to turn that jealousy into fuel and start putting in the reps to build that life for yourself. Your relationships and the let them theory you've made it. You've spent the first half of this journey doing the hardest work there is, cleaning out your own house. You've swept out the dusty corners of anxiety, fired the imaginary critics living rent-free in your head, and learned how to stop running your life's engine in the red zone. You are taking back the pen and becoming the sole author of your own story. If you've put in the work, you should already be feeling a powerful shift. A newfound sense of space. A quiet hum of calm where the frantic buzz of stress used to be. You've reclaimed the time and energy you were once wasting on things you could never control, and now, with that space, we're going to turn our attention from your inner world to the outer one. We are about to step into the most complex, most rewarding, and sometimes most frustrating part of the human experience, your relationships. For years, you've likely approached your relationships like a sculptor. You see the people in your life, your friends, your partner, your family, as blocks of marble. You have a vision of who they could be, who they should be, and you spend all your time and energy trying to chip away at their flaws, smooth out their rough edges, and force them into the perfect shape you've imagined. But people are not marble. They will not be sculpted. The more you chip away, the more they resist, and you are both left feeling broken and resentful. This is where we learn a new way. In this next section of the book, you are going to stop being a sculptor and learn to become a gardener. A gardener has a fundamentally different relationship with the world. A gardener doesn't force a rose to become a sunflower. A gardener understands and respects the innate nature of each and every plant. Their job isn't to change the plant, their job is to create the conditions for it to thrive. A gardener tends to the soil, provides the right amount of sunlight and water, and pulls the weeds that threaten to choke out the light. You cannot control the flower, but you can control the garden. This is the secret to transforming every relationship in your life. In the chapters that follow, we are going to walk through your garden together. First, in Mastering Adult Friendship, we'll explore the perennial garden of your friendships. We'll learn that these relationships have seasons of vibrant bloom and quiet dormancy. Your job isn't to force a flower to bloom out of season, but to tend the soil so it's ready when the time is right. Next, in Motivating Other People to Change, we'll discover that you can't make a plant grow by yelling at it. You'll learn the art of influence, how to provide the sunlight and water that might inspire growth, without ever pulling on the stem. Then, in Helping Someone Who is Struggling, we'll tackle the hardest part of gardening, what to do when a beloved plant is sick. You'll learn the crucial difference between supportive watering and the kind of over-rescuing that floods the roots and drowns the very thing you're trying to save. Finally, in Choosing the Love You Deserve, we'll walk through the rose garden of romantic love. You'll learn how to stop trying to turn a daisy into a rose, how to love a flower for its true nature, and most importantly, how to cultivate the self-love that makes you the most vibrant and resilient flower in the entire garden. The promise of this next section is simple, but profound. The best relationships of your life are not behind you, they are waiting to be grown. They are waiting for you to put down the chisel and pick up the watering can. So let's get our hands dirty, stop trying to change the flower. Start tending to the garden. That is where the magic happens. Chapter 11, The Friendship Migration, and Why No One Gave You the New Map. Let's be honest for a second. Adult friendship can feel like you've been dropped into a foreign country with no map, no translator, and a nagging feeling that everyone else knows a secret you don't. That if you've ever found yourself scrolling through your contacts on a Friday night, wondering who you could possibly call, you're not alone. If you feel like your once thriving social life has slowly withered away, or that everyone else is at a party you weren't invited to, welcome to the club. We've been approaching friendship with an outdated map, and we're all getting lost. In our youth, friendship was a group activity with a built-in structure. From kindergarten through college, we were all in the same, carefully tended flower bed. The school system was the head gardener, it put us in the same soil, on the same watering schedule, and ensured we all got the same amount of sun. We moved through life in a pack, hitting the same milestones at the same time. Friendship was easy because it was automatic. Then, graduation happens. I call this the friendship migration. Like a flock of birds that has been raised together in one giant nest, we all suddenly fledge and fly off in 1,000 different directions. One friend migrates to a high-powered career in a big city. Another migrates to marriage and parenthood in the suburbs. A third migrates to grad school on the other side of the country. The old flock is gone. The old flower bed has been bulldozed. And for the first time, you are solely responsible for cultivating your own garden. This migration doesn't just happen once. It happens again and again. When friends get married, when they have kids, when they get divorced, when they retire, with every new season of life, there is another migration. The reason you feel so lost is that you're still trying to use the old map. You're expecting friendship to just happen. But adult friendship isn't a manicured school garden, it's more like wild gardening. It's less predictable, it requires more intention, and you have to understand the 3 essential elements that allow any relationship to grow: the soil, the season, and the sunlight, the 3 elements of wild gardening. If you understand these 3 elements, you'll stop taking the natural cycles of friendship so personally and start becoming a master gardener of your own social life. Point 1. The soil. Proximity. Friendships cannot grow in barren soil. The soil is the shared ground you occupy, the physical proximity that allows a connection to take root. Research has shown that it takes over 200 hours of time together to form a close friendship. In college, you logged 200 hours with your roommate by October of your freshman year. As a working adult, getting 200 hours with someone can take years. The less time you spend in the same physical soil, the more effort it takes to keep the connection nourished. It's not personal, it's agricultural. Point 2. The season. Timing. You can't force a tulip to bloom in November. The season is the chapter of life you're in. When you and your friends are in the same season, single and figuring out your careers, new parents surviving on no sleep, empty nesters rediscovering yourselves, the connection is effortless. But when one of you is in the season of late-night parties and the other is in the season of early morning feedings, your needs are fundamentally different. It doesn't mean one season is better than the other, it just means it's harder to grow things together when you're in different climates. Point 3. The sunlight, energy. This is the magic, the vibe, the unquantifiable click. Some plants need direct, intense sunlight to thrive. Others prefer a quiet, shady corner. The energy between two people is either mutually nourishing or it's not. You either feel energized and seen in their presence, or you feel drained and misunderstood. You can't fake good sunlight. And just as the sun's position changes throughout the day, this energy can shift over time as you both grow and change. When a friendship fades, 99% of the time it's not because someone did something wrong. It's because the soil has changed, the seasons are out of sync, or the sunlight has shifted. The problem is, when we feel the distance, we don't think like a gardener. We think like a victim. And we make everything worse. Chapter 12, Why Some Friendships Naturally Fade, the Perennial in Winter. Let me tell you about Sarah and Jen. They were the classic work wives. They started their first real jobs in the same department, on the same day. For 5 years, they were inseparable. They were planted in the richest soil imaginable, sharing a cubicle wall, eating lunch together every day, decoding the boss's cryptic emails. They were in the same season, navigating their 20s, dating, and dreaming about the future. And the sunlight between them was perfect. They just got each other. Then, the migration began. Sarah got a huge promotion. She moved to a different department on a different floor, into a demanding new role. A few months later, Jen had her first baby and went on maternity leave. Suddenly, the soil was gone. They didn't see each other for 8 hours a day anymore. Their seasons were now wildly out of sync. Sarah's world was quarterly reports and team management, Jen's was diapers and sleep schedules. When they did manage to text, it felt like they were speaking different languages. A crisis for Sarah was a missed deadline. A crisis for Jen was a blowout diaper at the grocery store. Sarah started to feel a deep sense of hurt. Doesn't she care about my big presentation? Why isn't she asking about my new team? She saw Jen's distance as a personal rejection. She felt abandoned. She was taking the natural, predictable change in their friendship garden and making it all about her. In her heart, she was trying to force a perennial to bloom in the middle of winter. It took her a long time to see it from a gardener's perspective. The friendship wasn't dead. It was dormant. It was a healthy, beautiful plant that was conserving its energy because the conditions for vibrant growth were no longer there. The most loving thing she could do wasn't to get angry or demand more from Jen. It was to accept the season they were in. This is where the theory becomes your most powerful gardening tool. Let her be in her own season. Let her be consumed by motherhood. Let her texts be short and infrequent. Let her world revolve around something other than me for a while. This isn't a passive act of giving up. It's an active, compassionate acceptance of reality. And once you've done that, you can move to the next step. Let me be a different kind of friend in this new season. Let me stop keeping score. Let me send a text that says, thinking of you and the little one. No need to reply, just sending love, and actually mean it. Let me be a source of gentle, no pressure support, like a little bit of water for a plant in winter, trusting that when the spring comes, we will have a chance to bloom again. So many of our friendship heartbreaks come from this refusal to accept the changing seasons. We see a dormant plant and declare it dead. We see a friend pull away because of a shift in soil or season, and we fill that space with our own insecurities, making it a story of betrayal and rejection. Stop it. Let them not text back. Let their priorities shift. Let them grow in a different direction for a while. Your job is not to grip so tightly that you strangle the roots. Your job is to be a patient, wise gardener who understands that some of the most beautiful connections in your life will have seasons of quiet, and that's not an ending, it's just a part of the cycle. Chapter 13, How to Create the Best Friendships of Your Life, A Gardener's Guide to Getting Your Hands Dirty. So you've accepted that friendships fade and seasons change. You've used "let them" to make peace with the garden you have. But now you look around, and you realize your garden is looking a little sparse. Maybe you've moved, or gone through a breakup, or a pandemic has upended your social life, and you're feeling the sharp sting of loneliness. This is where you must remember the most important rule of wild gardening: no one is coming to plant your garden for you. You cannot stand on your porch, staring at an empty patch of dirt, and expect flowers to appear. You have to be the one who is willing to pick up the shovel and get your hands dirty. This is the "let me" of friendship. Let me tell you about Mark. Mark was in his late 30s, a newly divorced dad. His entire social life had been built around couples, dinner parties, vacations, game nights. After the divorce, the invitations dried up. It was awkward for everyone. He was a painful reminder of what could go wrong. On the weekends he didn't have his kids. The silence in his new apartment was deafening. For 6 months, he did what most of us do. He waited. He scrolled through pictures of his old life, feeling a toxic mix of nostalgia and bitterness. He was expecting his old friends to tend to his new, barren garden. But they were busy with their own. Finally, he realized he had a choice. He could keep staring at the empty dirt, or he could start planting something new. That he used "let them" to release his old friends from his expectations. Let them feel awkward. Let them not know what to say. Let them have their couples nights. Then, he moved to the powerful part. Let me take responsibility for my own happiness. Let me stop waiting to be invited and start creating my own opportunities. Mark loved to cook. So he signed up for a weekly Italian cooking class. It was terrifying. He walked in and saw mostly couples and groups of women. He was the only single guy there. His first instinct was to bolt. But he stayed. And he decided to practice one simple habit, the most powerful tool in any gardener's shed, the habit of going first. Instead of rushing out the second class ended, he was the one who turned to the couple next to him and said, "Hey, your pasta looked amazing. I'm Mark, by the way." He started a class text chain to share recipes. After the third class, he was the one who said, "A few of us are going to grab a drink at that place next door to celebrate not giving ourselves food poisoning. Want to join?" He was not waiting for community, he was actively cultivating it, one awkward conversation at a time. He was going first. Slowly, his garden started to grow. He made a few new friends, not just other single people, but a diverse mix of people who shared his passion. He started hosting small dinner parties at his apartment. The silence that was once deafening was now filled with laughter and the smell of garlic and olive oil. He had built a new garden, one that was perfect for the new season of his life. This is your blueprint. Point 1. Go first, always. Be the one to smile at the person next to you in the yoga class. Be the one to compliment the barista on her cool earrings. Ask the guy at the dog park what his dog's name is. This is how you start to enrich your soil with what sociologists call weak ties, the friendly acquaintances that make you feel connected to your community. Point 2. Follow your sunlight. Sign up for things that genuinely light you up, a hiking club, a pottery class, a volunteer group. This puts you in a garden with other plants that thrive in the same kind of sunlight. You're pre-screening for shared energy and interests. Point 3. Be the connector. Don't wait for an invitation. Create one. Be the person who says, "Let's start a book club," or, "Who wants to try that new restaurant on Saturday?" You don't need to be an extrovert. You just need to be willing to send the first text. Your social life is your responsibility. It is also one of the greatest sources of joy you will ever have. Stop looking at your empty garden and feeling sorry for yourself. Let them come and go. Let the seasons change. And let you be the one with dirt under your fingernails, a shovel in your hand, and a life full of the most beautiful, wild, and resilient friendships you have ever known. Mastering friendship, the summary. The problem: you're navigating adult friendships with an outdated map from your youth, expecting it to be an easy, automatic group activity. The reality is that the friendship migration has scattered your flock, and friendship is now a form of intentional wild gardening. The truth: friendships naturally ebb and flow based on 3 key elements: soil, proximity, season, timing, and sunlight, energy. When a friendship fades, it's rarely a personal failure, it's a natural shift in one of these elements. A relationship that seems over is often just a perennial in winter, dormant, not dead. The solution: become a master gardener. Let them, to accept the changing seasons, release people from your expectations, and stop taking things personally. Let me, to take responsibility for your own garden. Practice the habit of going first, be the one to connect, invite, and cultivate. By getting your hands dirty and planting seeds of connection, you can create the most vibrant, supportive, and fulfilling friendships of your entire life, no matter what season you're in. Chapter 14: People only change when they feel like it, and why you don't have the key. There is a person in your life you wish would change. As you read that, their face probably popped into your head instantly. Maybe it's your partner who you wish would take better care of their health. Maybe it's your brother who is wasting his potential in a dead-end job. Maybe it's your best friend who keeps dating people who treat them terribly. You love them. You see how much better their life could be if they would just try. And so you do what any loving, rational person would do. You push. You plead. You send them articles. You offer advice. You gently, and sometimes not so gently, remind them of the consequences if they don't change, and in return for all your well-intentioned effort, you get nothing. Or worse, you get resistance. They get defensive, they shut down, or they dig their heels in even deeper. The more you push, the more they pull away, and now there's a wall of resentment and frustration between you. Here is one of the hardest and most liberating truths you will ever learn: you cannot make another adult change. Think of their motivation, their desire to change, as being locked behind a heavy door. You can see the beautiful room on the other side, the room where they are happier, healthier, and more fulfilled. But you can't get them there because you do not have the key. For years, you've been acting like a battering ram. You've been throwing yourself against their door, hoping to force it open with logic, guilt, and fear. But every time you push, you're not breaking the door down. You're just encouraging them to deadbolt it from the inside. Your pressure is the very thing that is preventing the change you so desperately want to see. The wall of resistance. Let's talk about Hannah and her younger brother, Tom. Tom is brilliant and funny, but he's stuck. He works a boring data entry job he despises, and he spends his evenings and weekends escaping into the world of video games, complaining about being broke and unfulfilled. Hannah, a successful project manager, is in full-on fixer mode. She's building a wall of resistance between them, brick by brick. One brick is labeled unsolicited advice. She constantly sends him job postings for careers she thinks he'd be good at. Another brick is judgment. She makes comments like, "Don't you think you're a little old to be spending all weekend playing video games?" A third brick is pressure. "You're so much smarter than this, Tom. You're just wasting your potential." She thinks she's helping. But from Tom's side of the wall, it feels like an attack. Her help feels like criticism. Her concern feels like a declaration that he's not good enough as he is. So what does he do? He retreats further behind the wall, into the one place where he feels competent and in control, his video games. The door isn't just locked, it's barricaded. And Hannah is the one who helped him build the barricade. This happens because of two fundamental truths about the human brain that your pushing completely ignores. Truth number one, the brain is a pleasure-seeking missile. Our brains are hardwired, above all else, to move toward pleasure and away from pain in the immediate moment. For Tom, his boring job is painful. The process of searching for a new one, updating his resume, facing potential rejection, starting over, is also intensely painful. But the couch and the video game controller? That's pleasure now. Your lecture about his future? That's pain now. Every time you push, you are just another source of pain his brain tells him to move away from. Truth number two, the brain believes it's the exception. As we learned earlier, we all have an optimism bias. We believe bad things happen to other people. Tom knows, logically, that his current path won't lead to long-term happiness. But in his mind, he's the exception. Something will just come along. Your warnings about his bleak future are just static. Research shows his brain literally tunes you out. This is the standoff you're in. It's not a battle of wills, it's a battle against brain chemistry. And it's a battle you will lose every single time. The only way to break the gridlock is to stop pushing. You have to be the one to stop laying bricks in the wall. You must, with love and compassion, accept them for who they are and where they are. Right now, you have to let them. Let them sit on the couch. Let them stay in the job they hate. Let them make choices you would not make. That I know what you're thinking. So I'm supposed to do nothing? Just stand by and watch them waste their life? No. You're going to do something far more powerful than pushing. You are going to stop trying to be the battering ram. And you're going to learn how to be the gentle knock on the door they might actually want to answer. Chapter 15, Unlock the Power of Your Influence. The gentle knock. When you stop trying to force the locked door open, something magical happens. You free up all the energy you were wasting and can now focus on creating an environment that inspires them to find their own key. This is the power of positive influence. It's the "let me" part of the equation. Behavior is contagious. We are all subconsciously influenced by the people around us. When you see someone enjoying a crisp, fresh salad, you're more likely to crave one later. When your coworker starts leaving work on time every day, your own desire to set better boundaries gets a little stronger. The beauty of influence is that it's subtle. It bypasses the wall of resistance because it doesn't feel like pressure. When the person finally does decide to change, they will be convinced it was 100% their own idea. This is the most effective and loving way to help someone grow. To do this, I want you to learn a technique I call the gentle knock. The gentle knock technique. Step A, the empathetic knock. Apologize and ask. You can't start by knocking. First, you have to take a few bricks out of the wall you've built. This requires a conversation, but it's a very different kind of conversation. You begin with a disarming apology. "Hey Tom," Hannah could say, "I just want to apologize. I know I've been pressuring you a lot about your job, and that's not fair. I'm going to stop." This apology is the sound of her putting down the battering ram. It immediately de-escalates the tension. He's no longer on the defensive. Then comes the gentle knock. It's not a question about what's wrong, it's a question about what could be right. You ask a soft, open-ended question that invites them to dream. I'm just curious, she could continue, if you could wave a magic wand and do anything for work, without worrying about money or what anyone else thought, what would it be? This is a technique based on motivational interviewing. You are not asking about his resume. You are asking about his soul. The goal is to get him to feel the gap between the life he's living and the life he secretly wants. That internal tension he feels is the only motivation that will ever work. Your job is just to help him see it. Don't offer opinions. Don't try to solve it. Just ask, and then truly listen. Step B, the patient wait, back off and model. After you've knocked, you have to do the hardest thing of all, walk away from the door. You can't stand there with your ear pressed against the wood, waiting for them to open it. You must give them space and time to process the conversation. It might take a week. It might take 6 months. During this time, your only job is to live your own life so vibrantly that you become an inspiration. This is the power of modeling. Hannah should stop talking about Tom's job and start talking about exciting projects she's passionate about at her own job. She should fill her own life with energy, purpose, and joy. She's not doing it at him, she's doing it for herself. But the contagious energy of her own growth is the sunlight seeping under his door, reminding him that a more vibrant world exists. Step C, the open door reward. Celebrate progress. The moment he takes one tiny step, even if it's just looking up an online course or tidying up his resume, the door has cracked open an inch. Your job is to reward that progress immediately and enthusiastically. Wow, that's awesome, you're looking into that course. That sounds really interesting. This isn't condescending praise. It's genuine celebration. Remember, the brain moves toward pleasure. That jolt of positive reinforcement links the hard new behavior, taking a step, with an immediate pleasure reward, your authentic approval and excitement. It's the sunlight that makes him feel safe enough to open the door a little wider. You must accept that they may never open the door. And that's okay, too. Loving someone means accepting them as they are, not as you wish them to be. But the most profound change that happens with this technique isn't in them, it's in you. You stop being their warden and you become their inspiration. You stop being a source of pressure and you become a source of peace. You transform the relationship from a battlefield into a safe harbor. And you create a beautiful, sunny front porch, modeling a life so compelling that one day, they might just get curious enough to unlock their own door and come outside to join you. Motivating change. The summary. The problem: you're trying to motivate someone to change using pressure, nagging, and logic. This is like trying to open a locked door with a battering ram. Your efforts are only making them deadbolted from the inside, creating a wall of resistance between you. The truth: you cannot make an adult change, they only change when they feel like it. Your pushing is counterproductive because the human brain is wired to move toward pleasure and away from pain. Your pressure feels like pain, and everyone believes they are the exception to negative consequences. The solution: stop being a battering ram. Use "let them" to accept them as they are and stop building the wall. Then, use "let me" to practice the gentle knock technique. Apologize for the pressure and ask open-ended questions to help them see their own desire to change. Then, back off and model a vibrant life. Finally, the moment they take a tiny step, celebrate their progress. This is how you stop being their critic and start being their inspiration. Chapter 16, The more you rescue, the more they sink, a lifeguard's guide to not drowning. Before we take another step, let me be perfectly clear. If someone you love is in immediate, life-threatening danger, if they are a danger to themselves or others, if they are about to get behind the wheel while intoxicated, you do not let them. You step in. You take the keys. You call for help. You do whatever is necessary to get them through that moment safely. That is not rescuing, that is responsible love. This chapter is about a different, more common, and much trickier situation. It's about watching someone you love as they are slowly swept out to sea by the currents of their own struggles, depression, anxiety, addiction, grief, or a paralyzing inability to cope with life. Your instinct, your every fiber of being, screams at you to be the hero. You want to dive in after them, wrap your arms around them, and swim them back to shore. But here is the lifeguard's secret, the one that goes against every impulse in your heart: if you try to swim for them, you will both drown. The more you rescue someone from their problems, the more you ensure they will continue to sink in them. The swimmer and the lifeboat. I want you to hold this metaphor in your mind. The person you love is the swimmer, treading water in a stormy sea. You are in the lifeboat, a sturdy, safe vessel. When you see them struggling, your first instinct is to pull them into your boat, wrap them in a blanket, and start rowing furiously for them. This is rescuing. It feels like helping. But what you're actually doing is teaching them a dangerous lesson: you don't need to learn how to swim. Someone else will always do it for you. You are creating dependency. You are draining your own energy. And you are preventing them from ever discovering their own strength. Your well-intentioned help has become a crutch that is preventing them from ever learning to walk on their own 2 feet. Let me tell you about Jessica and her best friend, Anna. When Anna went through a devastating breakup, she started to sink. Jessica, being a loyal friend, immediately went into full rescue mode. She jumped into the role of lifeboat captain. She cancelled her own plans to sit with Anna. She fielded Anna's tearful 2 a.m. phone calls. She made excuses to their friends for why Anna was always bailing. She was, in effect, pulling Anna into the lifeboat every single day and letting her lie there, a passive victim of her heartbreak. 3 months later, nothing had changed. Anna was no better. In fact, she was worse. She had become completely dependent on Jessica for her emotional survival. She wasn't learning how to cope, she was just learning how to be rescued. Jessica, meanwhile, was exhausted, resentful, and felt like her own life had been put on hold. Her rescuing wasn't healing Anna, it was enabling her depression. Jessica was making the mistake we all make. She was so focused on making Anna's immediate pain go away that she was robbing her of the very struggle that would lead to her healing. Struggle is a critical part of the human experience. It's the friction that creates the spark of change. It's the muscle fatigue that signals growth. When you shield people from the natural consequences of their choices, you are stealing their opportunity to learn and grow. As Harvard researcher Dr. Robert Waldinger told me, let people learn from life. Sometimes, losing a job is the only way to find a better career. Sometimes, facing a financial crisis is the only way to learn responsibility. And sometimes, feeling the full, crushing weight of loneliness is the only way to find the strength to stand up on your own again. That I learned this the hard way with my own daughter. When she was in middle school, she developed a crippling anxiety about sleeping alone. Every night, she would come into our room, and I, wanting to soothe her fear, would let her sleep on our floor. For 6 months, I rescued her from her anxiety. What I was really doing was sending her a powerful, unspoken message: you are not strong enough to face this on your own. You need me to save you. My rescuing made her anxiety worse because it validated her fear. It wasn't until a therapist taught me to stop rescuing her that things began to change. I had to learn to be the lifeboat, not the swimmer. My job was to sit with her, comfort her, and say, I know you're scared, and I know you can do this. And then, I had to walk with her back to her room and let her face the storm, knowing I was waiting safely on the other side of the door. My actions had to back up my words. I believe in your ability to swim. Your job is not to save them. Your job is to believe in their ability to save themselves. And then, you have to support them in a way that actually works. Chapter 17, How to Provide Support the Right Way, and When to Cut the Rope. So if you're not supposed to pull the swimmer into the lifeboat, what are you supposed to do? You stay firmly in your own boat. You keep yourself strong and steady. And then, you throw them a rope. You offer them tools. You shine a light toward the shore. But you must, under all circumstances, let them do the swimming. This is the crucial difference between rescuing and supporting. But in the real world, this often comes down to one of the most difficult and powerful levers you have: money, the leaky raft versus the life vest. Unconditional love does not mean unconditional financial support. In fact, one of the most loving things you can ever do for someone who is struggling with addiction, irresponsibility, or an unwillingness to get help is to cut them off financially. Giving unconditional money to an adult who is not helping themselves is like tossing them a leaky inflatable raft. It creates the illusion of safety. It keeps them afloat for a little while, but it's not a real solution. It allows them to drift further and further from shore, all while the raft is slowly deflating beneath them. When you pay their rent while they refuse to get a job, or you cover their bills while they continue to abuse substances, you are not helping. You are funding their self-destruction. True support is a life vest. A life vest doesn't swim for you. It doesn't row for you. But it provides the essential buoyancy you need to do the hard work of saving yourself. Conditional financial support is a life vest. It sounds like this: I will pay for your therapy, but you have to go every week. The vest is the therapy, they have to put it on. You can live in my house rent-free for 3 months, but the condition is you are actively looking for a job. I will help with your tuition, as long as you maintain your grades. This is not cruel, it is the definition of loving, responsible support. But it only works if you are willing to do the hardest part. If they refuse to wear the life vest, you have to be willing to take it away. If they stop going to therapy, you stop paying. If they're not looking for a job after 3 months, they have to move out. You will have your own rock bottom moment as the person in the lifeboat. It's the moment you finally realize that your help has become a hammock, making it far too comfortable for them to stay stuck. It's the moment you realize you have to be willing to watch them struggle, to let them feel the cold, scary water, because that is the only thing that will ever motivate them to start kicking, tending to the lifeboat. So while they are in the water, doing the hard work of swimming, what is your role? Your job is to tend to your lifeboat. It is to be a beacon of hope, support, and unwavering belief in their ability to make it to shore. When someone is struggling, they often don't have the energy or clarity to even know what they need. So don't ask, how can I help? That just puts another task on their to-do list. Instead, just do. This is the let me of support. Let me bail the water out of their life. Show up and do a load of laundry. Clean their kitchen. These small acts of service can feel monumental to someone who is overwhelmed. Let me stock the boat with supplies. Drop off a healthy, comforting meal. Send a care package. You're not solving their core problem, but you are giving them the fuel they need to keep swimming. Let me be the light that guides them to shore. Send a text that says, just thinking about you today. You are stronger than you know. Don't ask for a response. Just be a steady, consistent source of light in their storm. Create an environment for healing. Do these things without expectation. Do them because it aligns with your values of being a loving, supportive person. Your job is not to rescue them from the ocean. That is a journey they must make themselves. Your job is to be the steady, unwavering lifeboat that proves to them that a safe shore exists, and that they have the strength within them to reach it. Helping the struggling. The summary: the problem. Your instinct is to rescue the struggling swimmer in your life by pulling them into your lifeboat. This feels like helping, but it's actually enabling. It prevents them from developing their own strength and drains your own energy, ensuring you both get stuck at sea. The truth: you cannot want someone's healing more than they do. Lasting change only happens when a person is forced to face the natural consequences of their actions. Unconditional love does not mean unconditional financial or emotional rescue. The solution: stop rescuing and start supporting. Use let them to allow them to face their struggle, even when it's painful to watch. Use let me to be the sturdy lifeboat. Offer life vests, conditional, constructive support, instead of leaky rafts, unconditional bailouts. Tend to the lifeboat by creating an environment of hope and encouragement, all while letting them do the hard, necessary work of swimming for themselves. Chapter 18, Let them show you who they are. The audition. At the end of your life, you will not measure your days in dollars earned or goals achieved. You will measure it in moments of connection, in the love you gave and the love you received. You deserve a love story that is worthy of your one wild and precious life. The greatest love stories are not found, they are chosen. And they are chosen with wisdom, clarity, and courage. The problem is, when it comes to love, most of us don't act like wise choosers. We act like desperate beggars, so terrified of being alone that we chase after anyone who throws us the smallest scrap of attention. We abandon our own needs, ignore red flags, and try to contort ourselves into a shape we think someone else will love. This is where it all changes. You are about to stop being a beggar and start being a talent scout for your own life. Think about it. A professional talent scout has a very clear vision for the most important role in their production, the role of a lifetime partner. They don't just grab the first person who walks in the door. They hold auditions. They sit back, they observe, and they let the candidates show them who they really are. Dating is the audition. Every text, every date, every action, or inaction, is part of their performance. Your job is not to coach them, direct them, or rewrite their script. Your job is to simply watch, take notes, and decide if they are right for the role. Clarity is kind. Confusion is a costume that a great talent scout knows one thing above all else: a true star shines with clarity. Their talent is obvious. Their commitment is clear. You know it when you see it. The same is true in dating. If someone is truly interested in you, you will know. Their actions will be clear, consistent, and leave no room for doubt. But if they're not, you will be confused. Confusion is not a sign that you need to try harder. Confusion is a costume. It's a cheap disguise hiding a very simple truth: they are not that interested, they are not available, or they are not right for the part. Stop trying to decode their mixed signals. Stop creating elaborate fantasies to explain away their inconsistent behavior. You are chasing a ghost. You know you're chasing, not scouting, when you're the one initiating 90% of the texts. That they're always busy, but have plenty of time to watch all your Instagram stories. The only time you see them is after 10 p.m., you find yourself explaining their behavior to your friends with the phrase, "They're just really complicated." These are not clues to a deeper mystery. This is the audition. They are showing you that you are not a priority. Let them show you who they are. Let them be a bad texter. Let them be too busy for a real date. Let them keep you in a confusing gray area. They are giving you all the information you need, and then, as the lead talent scout for your own life, you must make the powerful follow-up move. Let me believe what their actions are telling me. Let me respect myself enough to end an audition that is clearly going nowhere. Let me say, with calm and clarity, "Thank you, next." Every moment you spend chasing someone who leaves you confused is a moment you are not available to discover the person who will bring you nothing but clarity. Chapter 19. How to take your relationship to the next level, the contract. So what happens when the audition goes well? You found someone who shines. They are consistent, they are kind, and the energy between you is electric. You've had a few callbacks, and you're starting to think they might just be right for the lead role. Now it's time to talk about the contract. This is the dreaded, "What are we?" conversation. For most of us, it's a moment filled with anxiety. We approach it like a needy applicant, hoping they'll hire us. This is the wrong frame. You are not the applicant. You are the producer. You are the one with the vision. This conversation isn't about begging for a commitment. It's a calm, professional negotiation to see if you both want to be in the same movie. First, a crucial question: are you a scout who keeps casting for the wrong movie? If you have a long history of chasing people who won't commit, the problem isn't them. It's you. You are subconsciously casting unavailable people because, deep down, you are the one who is unavailable for a healthy, real relationship. If this is your pattern, you must do the bravest thing of all: put your movie on hold. You need to be single. You need to stop casting for a while and do the inner work to figure out what kind of story you truly want to live. But if this is a new situation with a genuinely promising candidate, it's time to talk terms. Here is how the empowered talent scout handles the contract negotiation: you don't make it about them. You make it about the production, your life. "I have absolutely loved the time we've been spending together. I think you're incredible. And I've reached a point where I need to be honest with myself about the kind of production I'm running here. I'm casting for a long-term, exclusive feature film. And I see leading role potential in you. So my question is, what kind of role are you auditioning for? If you're looking for a long-term contract, that's amazing. But if you're just looking for a guest spot or a recurring role, I completely respect that, but it's not the movie I'm making. I value my time and energy too much to invest in a short-term project. Do you feel the power in that? It is confident, clear, and completely non-needy. You are not asking them to validate you. You are inviting them to co-create with you. You are giving them the absolute freedom to say no. And sometimes, they will. It will hurt. But a no is not a rejection of your worth, it is a gift of clarity. It saves you from months or years of heartbreak. It frees you up to find the star who is not only talented, but who is dying to be in your movie. Let them say no. And then, let me hold out for the person who gives me an enthusiastic yes. Never accept the table scraps of someone's affection when you deserve a seat at the banquet. Chapter 20, How Every Ending is a Beautiful Beginning. The final cut. In a long-term relationship, you are no longer the talent scout. You are the film editor. You and your partner have shot thousands of hours of footage together. There are scenes of breathtaking beauty, scenes of hilarious comedy, and scenes that are painful, awkward, and hard to watch. Your job in the editing room is to look at all that footage and ask a tough question. Does this movie work? According to the world's most renowned relationship researchers, Drs. John and Julie Gottman, 69% of a couple's problems are perpetual. They are like the footage you can't reshoot, your partner's messiness, your different social energies, your conflicting political views. These things will never change. The question is not, can I fix these problems? The question is, can I love this person and create a beautiful film with them, footage and all? Can you accept them as they are, right now, if they never, ever change? If the answer is yes, if their flaws are manageable and don't violate your core values, then your job is to end your bitching. You must stop complaining about the 69% you can't change. Accept the footage you have, and focus on editing a story of love, kindness, and compassion. But what if the answer is no? What if the footage reveals a fundamental flaw in the story? What if you realize your scripts for life are completely incompatible? One of you has a script that ends with kids and a house in the suburbs, the other's script ends with a backpack and a one-way ticket to Thailand. You love each other, but you are in two different movies. This is when you, the editor, have to make the hardest decision of all. You have to make the final cut. Ending a relationship you've invested your heart in is a unique and profound kind of grief. It is the death of a future you planned together. There is no way around the pain, there is only through it. You will have to go through the excruciating process of disentangling your nervous system from theirs. You must give yourself time and space to grieve. Delete the photos. Mute their stories. Fill your calendar. Lean on your friends. Pick a new, hard challenge and throw yourself into it. This is not about erasing them. It is about clearing the editing bay to make room for your next project. Because here is the beautiful, hopeful truth. Every final cut is not just an ending. It is the premiere of a brand new film. A film starring you. This new film might be a quiet, introspective indie drama for a while. It might be a buddy comedy with your friends. It might be an adventure travel documentary. You don't know what the story is yet. But you do know one thing: you are the director, you are the writer, and you are the star. And the love of your life is not the person who just walked out of the frame. The love of your life is the one who is still there, holding the camera, ready for the next take. It's you. Conclusion. Your Let Me era is here, the standing ovation for one. We have spent this entire journey talking about other people, their opinions, their emotions, their choices, their struggles. But if you walk away from this book thinking it was about them, you have missed the entire point. This book was never about them. It has always, only, been about you. You hold all the power. You always have. You've just been giving it away, handing out tickets to your life's movie to an invisible jury and letting their reviews dictate your story. You've been acting as a beleaguered firefighter, an exhausted gardener, and a desperate talent scout, all in a frantic effort to manage a world you were never meant to control. That ends today. The most important part of this entire theory is not the let them. It is the let me. Let them is the key that unlocks your prison cell. But let me is the act of stepping out into the sunlight and deciding where to walk. your let me era is a declaration of responsibility. It's the moment you stop waiting for someone else to make you happy, to give you permission, to choose you, to save you. It's the moment you realize that you are responsible for your own happiness, your own energy, your own dreams, your own healing, and your own love story. Nobody owes you anything. But you owe yourself everything. Think of the sky. You cannot control the clouds, the storms, or the sun. But you can decide whether to dance in the rain, seek shelter from the storm, or turn your face toward the warmth. You cannot control the weather, but you can always control your response to it. That is your power. Unshakable. Unbreakable. Unconditional. That I want you to imagine the life you want. The career that fulfills you. The relationships that nourish you. The love that feels like coming home. It is not a fantasy. It is a possibility waiting for you to claim it. So let this be your permission slip. Let me get started, let me take the risk, let me be honest about what I truly want, let me stop accepting scraps and hold out for the banquet, let me create a life that makes me so damn proud. A life where I am the writer, the director, and the star. A life where, at the end of each day, I can look at the footage, and no matter what the critics say, I can give myself a standing ovation for one. If you don't believe you can do it, let me believe it for you. If you don't know if you're worthy, let me know it for you, and if you don't know where to start, let me tell you. You already have, all it takes is two simple words, let me.